The internet's got it wrong. Most of these yahoos do not know how to remove a run smoothly, safely, and effectively. Even painters that have been painting for 20 years do it the wrong way. If you're a painter, sooner or later, you're gonna get runs. That just comes along with the territory. Today, we're gonna show you everything that you need to know so you can master the art of removing runs. If you talk to 100 different painters, you might get 100 different answers on what's the best way to remove a run. Today, we're gonna take the best methods and the best tricks and the best secrets. We're gonna combine them in one video so you can be super effective on how to take out 99.9% of all runs. Look, repainting stuff is expensive. Material is expensive. Your labor is expensive. You do not have to repaint most of these cars. I will admit you can't save every run, but we can resave most runs. We're gonna cover how to remove runs from primers, sealers, base coats, and clear coats all in one video. So come inside and let us show you the art of removing runs. We're gonna start off with a real easy, small, basic run in the clear coat. Now, step one is to make sure that the clear coat is dry. You don't want to run something and then jump on it an hour later. This has been dry for a couple days now, so it's nice and set up. We took some wet sanding paper and we cut up some 600, some 800, 1000, and 15, and we have it soaking in the bucket. At the end of the video, we can show you how to use dry sanding paper too, but most guys prefer wet sanding over dry sanding, but there is a little bit of debate there. Now, I want to start with a good block, and no, I'm not talking about these guys. These guys are way too big, all right? Even if the quality is good, these blocks are way too big. I'm gonna actually get some smaller blocks, and these two blocks are perfect. What I like about this, it's hard on one side for my rougher grits, and it's soft on the other side. You can even get plexiglass, or if you don't want to spend the money, you can take and make some of these out of wood, and we'll include how to do that at the end of the video. I'm not starting with 1000 grit like most people do. 1000 grit is way too fine, and all it's going to do is round the run. We want to attack it. Remember, this is the smallest run. We're going to start off with some 600 grit. So I'm going to grab some 6 out of my bucket. I'm going to put it on a hard block. You have to do this by hand. You cannot just use an air tool to do it. I'm going to wet this guy up, and I'm going to stay right on top of the run. And my philosophy here is to stay on top of the run, keep it as small as possible. I call it KISS. Keep it small, stupid. And I want to remove about 80 to 90% of the run. I do not want to take it all the way out with 600 grit. We took the run about 80-90% out. If you look at this, we actually got a little bit big, and that's what I was talking about earlier is KISS. Keep it small, stupid. If I start with, let's say, 600, I'm gonna be this big, and then 800 is gonna be this big, then 1000, then 15, then 3, then my compounds and my glazes, and it's just gonna grow out of control. So from the get-go, you wanna keep it small, stupid. KISS, KISS, KISS. That's why I like the smaller blocks, all right, because I can control that, because I know I'm progressively getting bigger. So now that I took it most of the way out, I want to make sure it's super dry. You can use a water blade, compressed air, paper towel. I'm just using a microfiber, and we want to use a guide coat. If you have a black vehicle, black guide coat doesn't show up that well. All right, they do make white guide coat. We're using just some Merca. There's a lot of other companies that make it. And you want to get this in really good. The cool thing about the guide coat is it's not so much for the run, but I want to get out that last grit scratch. And in our case, the 600. And I don't want to over sand it or undersand it. So now I'm starting with 800 grit wet, same block. I'm going hard and I'm putting light pressure on it. I'm doing that 45-degree angle. The first time I came this way, if I wanted to be crazy, I could go the opposite way, and you can actually watch the run get removed. My philosophy here with the 800 is to take it 100% out. With the 600 grit, I was coming in and taking it that 80-90% out. You can see how it's starting to get removed from here. I have to take the run out 100%, and I have to take 100% of the scratches out too. It appears to be out in 800 grit. Now, here's a trick. This is an old collision trick. Sometimes if we didn't have a lot of material and we didn't know if the run was out or not, we would come in and we would compound and glaze it. Yeah, it's in 800 grit and there'd be a bunch of sand scratches, but at least you could tell if the run was out. Because if you're not very experienced with runs, sometimes you'd go 800, 1000, 15, white with the white, that's the compound, black with the black, that's the glaze, and you go, oh man, it's still there. So you would go back to 600 or 800, go through all those steps, and you would burn it. So if you're unsure about a run, is sometimes you could buff it, and it's gonna have a lot of sand scratches, but at least you could tell if the run was gone. We're not doing that here today. Basically, I think that the run's out, but as an insurance policy, I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna guide coat it again, and I'm gonna go to 1000 grit with the hard block. Every step after this will be a soft block. So my philosophy was 600, hard block, wet or dry, I don't care, get the run most of the way out. 800 grit, hard block, wet or dry, I don't care, get it 100% out. The 1000 grit, hard block, this is my insurance. All I'm doing is taking the 800 grit scratches out, and I'm making sure that this run is gone. So I'll shoot a little water on it, and I'll block this bad boy out with a hard block. It appears that we're done with the 1000 grit, and we can move right to soft block 15, and we can even go higher and move to our buffing. We do have a complete video on how to sand and buff. You can watch that video because we're not going to get into the buffing process today. But the key word was it appears that we're done with 1000. If you look closely, the guide coat has highlighted 2 big scratches in this. And this is what I love about the guide coat. I don't oversand or undersand it. So I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna smooth those scratches out with 1000 grit before I move to my 15, and I'm home free on the little baby run. Let's say you don't have a little baby run and you have something a little bit larger and it has heads on it. We're gonna show you the razor blade trick. Now, a lot of people do this wrong, and one of the problems that they do is they'll take a used razor blade, or they'll take a razor blade that hasn't been properly prepped, and they'll start scraping and the corners will dig in. How you avoid that is simple. New razor blade, you can take some tape. The cool thing is it actually spaces the blade up a little bit, and it's a little bit safer so you don't get dig-ins here and there. So I like the tape trick. Another way to do it is you could take a razor blade, I just have a piece of 80, you can come in here and you can actually round these corners, that way that they don't dig in. It doesn't take a lot. Some people will come in and they'll curve them even. For you rookies out there, I'd say use the tape technique first. This is the best way to do it, but don't just get some used razor blade or some straight razor blade. What you want to do is you want to start and put the razor blade in front of the run, and you want to pull it towards you. Don't be scared. Use medium pressure. They tell you not to go back and forth, especially when you're a rookie, because you'll dig the corners in. I actually do go back and forth, and I'm not being scared. I'm putting some pressure. This is the way that they teach you to do it. What I actually do, and I'll grab the other razor blade that's just got the bend in it, I'll go back and forth. And look at how fast it takes it out. Now, I don't want to take it 100% out. Just like in our first run, I want to take it that 80-90% out. I really want to attack the heads. There we go. Look at how quick that is. Now, I will warn you that you can't do this if the run is still very soft. The best thing to do if you have the time is wait a day or two before you attack these runs. If that's not an option, there's 100 different ways to do it. Some of the most popular ones are simply bake the car, put it outside in the sun. You could use an infrared light to dry it up. Whatever you do, make sure your run is dry before you get aggressive with it. Now that I got it scraped, what do? Easy. I come in, I do my guide coat trick with my powder, my hard block, and I'd probably start with some 600 or 800 and go all the way up. I love the razor blade trick, especially if the clear is hard or cured, and especially if it has heads. I'm a big fan of it. A lot of guys will use a denibbing tool. Now, I am a big fan of the tool for removing little pieces of dirt or medium pieces of dirt in my clear coat. I do not use this for runs. I don't like it. Some people do. That's fine. I like the razor blade trick. Keep this for dirt nibs and keep this for big run heads. So we're using these test panels to demonstrate different types of runs and different severities. This panel right here has got heavy solvent pop. A panel like this probably cannot be saved. Now, what do you do in a situation like this? You block it out and you repaint it. If it's really bad, you may have to reseal it. So not all panels can be saved. The only other issue that we have is sometimes when you take a run out or a big piece of dirt, if the car has factory orange peel and you want to keep the orange peel, you end up creating a flat spot and it looks better in this area than the rest of the car. So that can always be an issue. Why are we using these run panels? Well, in December of 1984 was the last time I actually ran a car, so we had to duplicate these on panels since I don't know how to run them anymore. If you have one this bad, this is not worth messing with. This is what I would do the razor blade trick on. I'd probably block it out with some 600 hard block. I would 800 it soft block, and hopefully I don't hit my base and I can just go to a re-clear. This is not worth messing with. This guy right here, this one's pretty simple. Got a big head here, a big head here. This is perfect for the bondo trick if you're scared of the razor blade. So with this guy, what I want to do is to take out the run, but I don't want to burn around the run. So I'm going to take some of my easiest, thinnest 2K glaze. Bondo is traditionally too thick and it sands too hard. So I don't care if you're using Dolphin glaze or Evercoat 416. You want to get it on thin and you want to make it where whatever glaze you're using, it's very easy to sand. You don't have to use tape, but if you have control issues, you can actually do a border of where you want your mud and where you don't. Guys that have been doing this a long time, they probably feel that this is an unnecessary step, which might be true. But if you're a rookie and you're not good at controlling your mud, a little bit of time to tape it up. So this would actually be a good step for some people. All I'm going to do is take my glaze, and I have a tendency to put it on too thick. You want to put it on super thin. Sometimes you can actually see where the run is, and all we're trying to do is put a thin coat. The cool thing is we're going to sand this off with a really aggressive grit. We're going to start with like a 240 dry. Some guys use 400 wet. I'm going to attack it with a 240 dry. But the great thing is once I get the run out, I can actually scrape or blow off the excess amount if I don't want to take and sand it out. So I'll show you how to block this out in a second. I peeled the tape while the mud was still wet, and now I'm going to start with a hard block and 240 dry, and I just want to stay on top of the mud. Some guys will take it a little bit farther. I'm going to actually scrape or blow off the excess. You can see I've taken the run mostly out, but I've protected all the areas around the run. This is 240. What I can do is come in wet, I can come in dry. Even if you don't have the fancy sandpaper like the stick it or the hook it or the sleeves. In theory, you could take your paint stick and a piece of DA paper and cut it down. It's a little bit primitive, but it will work. So here, I'm just gonna take some guide coat. I'm gonna cover my mud. I'm gonna cover my run. I'm gonna take the run out 100% now, or at least, you know, a lot more than it is. And I'm gonna remove all those 240 grit scratches. Now the cool thing about it is I can take and scrape this off, blow it off, guide coat it, do my hard block 600, guide coat 800, guide coat 1000, and just be done with the run. Now, you want to avoid stuff like this. You can see how I got beyond my mud. This is the kiss of death. So either A, step your mud out farther, or B, what you want to do is leave your tape there so you don't get scratches. If you get 240 grit or 400 grit scratches in your clear coat, they're going to be very difficult to remove. We're going to get this out, but you don't want to do that. What you can do is you can take your razor blade now and you can come in and just catch the edge, and a lot of times it'll just peel right off, and or you can blow it off. So it comes off super, super fast. And what I can do now is I can guide coat this bad boy and move right on to 600 grit. You want to be very careful with that razor blade, especially if the clear coat is soft still. So now it's time for 600, and my philosophy is to get all those heavy scratches out over here, and then to take the initial run like 90% out or more, and then I'll take it 100% out with 800, and I've got guide coat there. So this is gonna make it a lot safer, a lot easier. And I'm out here getting the scratch out. You can see that run. Just like the last runs, we took it about 90% out with 600. We're gonna guide coat it now, hard block 800, guide coat it, take it 100% out with the 800, and take it 100%, 110% out with 1000, and then we can do our soft block 15, 3000, white with the white, black with the black, blue with the blue. So we're almost in the home clear now. We'll go through all the steps and we'll show you what it looks like when it's buffed. I did sand way out here, way too big for the run, but this has got a lot of clear on it, and I wanted to remove some of the peel and to make it look a little bit nicer. So I did attack way out here with 600. Normally you would keep it small. Here's why the Bondo trick is pretty effective. Let's say I got a run, all right, and I got a couple big heads and a couple small heads. Depending on how many coats of clear you put on, let's say you're putting 2 or 3 coats. Most clear coat is 1 to 1.5 mils per coat. So right here, I have 3 to 4.5 mils, all right? Where the head is, hopefully it doesn't have these dots in it because that's solvent pop and that's a game changer. But where the head is, this could be 2 or 3 times as thick. If I come in with my big block and I start just going all crazy big and I take it down 5 mils here, there's gonna be nothing left here. So the cool thing about the Bondo trick is it protects this area until it shaves it down. Even if you're not using the Bondo trick, if you're staying on top of the runs and you're short stroking it, you want to make sure you're not removing too much clear here. And here's a part that nobody ever thinks about. Let's say you're able to remove this run or any run. Is there enough clear at the end of the day? What? Yeah, I said it. Most manufacturers say in order for it to hold up over time that you need a mil and a half of clear or more, or over time it's gonna break down. So just because you remove a run and you don't punch through and hit the base does not necessarily mean that you won. You wanna make sure that you have enough clear there so that the job doesn't go bad down the road. Now I'll admit, I'm a blockaholic and I'm a toolaholic. Not everybody can afford to buy some nice blocks. I don't like the wide traditional blocks. If you can get a hold of some of these, there's a lot of companies that make them. This is a next level block. We've got a couple different sizes. We have a couple different variations of Lucky blocks. These are great for removing runs, and I do think it's worth the investment. But let's say money's tight and you're balling on a budget. You can make them. All you have to do is start off with a normal paint stick. We took this paint stick and we rounded it. You can cut it down. I think you go a step further and go to a home improvement store and get a longer, wider paint stick, and you can cut those down to make various sizes for blocking out your primer and or removing runs. I think it's worth your time and your money. Historically, people wet sand runs out, and I will admit it's super popular. It probably was better once upon a time, but give dry sanding a try too. You can use these 9x11 sleeves. They come in different grits. This is what the dry looks like. This is what the wet looks like in the 3M world. But then the Kovac system is great for denibbing base and stuff like that, which is technically still dry sanding. Or you could go old school and use DA paper or the rolled paper. So wet or dry is a lot of personal preference, but dry sanding has made a huge comeback because of the advancements in sandpaper technology. Hopefully these tips were helpful and you learned something today. Now, if I was to get into a run with my primer, I would use the same system we were showing you. All right, I would just use the next aggressive grit down, and I'd make sure I hard block it out. I can use my guide coat and work it up from there. Same thing for sealer, same thing with base. Usually with base coat, if I run something, I'll block it out with a hard block with some 400, and then I can come in with a soft block with 600, and then I can rebase that area. Make sure you like and subscribe our channel. Hopefully you learned a lot today from David and Gary from Refinished Media. Until the next time.